My name is Manley, and my program is Media Arts. It's an MFA program. I chose Emerson because it's kind of an open program. There are a lot of other schools who are kind of like factories that churn out directors or screenwriters or producers, but Emerson is kind of all-inclusive in the way that it allows its students to kind of choose their own path and check out a couple different things before they really decide the course they're going to take. The variety of the group, my colleagues, is so diverse in terms of what we actually do and what we're interested in, that everybody brings something very different to the table. Some of the courses I've taken at Emerson, I've taken film production, shooting on 16mm, documentary production, experimental. There's a class called Outside of the Box, which is an experimental class. Directing actors. You work with some really interesting people who have a very different skill set than your own. And in a collaborative sense, that's great. I find that if I'm working with people who have the same skill set as me, it's kind of a waste of everybody's time. In a collaborative sense, I like to work with people who are great at things that I don't know anything about. I think it just makes for a stronger team. Even though my class only has about 30 people, it's strange. You don't really take the same classes with people. Because the offerings are kind of diverse and people's backgrounds are kind of diverse, the class mixture is always shifting. At the end of my first year, I hadn't had classes with people yet. Even though there are only 30 people, I would meet someone new in a class in the second semester or the third semester. Because the classes shift around so much, it creates a really nice mixture. It's interesting being a filmmaker in Boston. It's a smaller scene than other places, but I think that's a good thing, really. I mean, I go to screenings and workshops all the time that are not affiliated with the school. Boston, in and of itself, has a large kind of underground filmmaking community. I think it's probably better than places like New York or LA, where it's just kind of something that is kind of too big to even consider. Boston is, you can think about it, it's small enough that it's measurable or quantifiable. I've really gotten into producing. I was a segment producer for a documentary about the war in Afghanistan called Far From Afghanistan. It was directed by Professor John Vito. And that was great. It was about 6 months, give or take, working on it, and that movie just premiered at the Yamagata Film Festival in Japan. And now we're working on getting it to places like Berlin and Rotterdam and Sundance and maybe Cannes. It's a really great experience. I'm kind of working on my producing chops. I just finished shooting a short narrative piece with friends. It was called Presence of Light, and it's a short narrative piece about losing. It's a female protagonist loses sense of herself. She's put in a strange situation where she has to fight for her life, and kind of forces her to question her life choices. Choosing projects to work on, people always say it starts with a script. And that's true. It does start with a script, but it's also, you think about the people who you're going to be working with, and do you trust them? Do you trust their vision? Are you compatible? Could you work well together? I generally like working with people who I trust. The trust thing is more important than liking them. As long as the trust is there, you can find good projects. I think I'll probably go into producing. It's something I've really found is a strength of mine. Producing documentary, producing short narrative pieces, just kind of working that out more to see what I can find on the producing track. I see projects and I see what has been accomplished over the course of that production. How hard it must have been to get this done. And that inspires me. It's like, wow, I can't believe they went through the effort to get that, and they did it, and they did it well. They set out to do this, and they accomplished it, and that is always impressive to me.